Hi everyone, I'm Mindy Eggen and welcome to my channel. Today kicks off the 12 days of Christmas with Gina K Designs, and I am going to be sharing inspiration with day one, and I'm also including a tutorial for you if you would like to recreate this. Any additional supplies that I'll be using will be linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. So each of the packages come wrapped up in this little baggie with a sticker on it. So I'm going to go ahead, open my day one up to reveal this ornate frame. This frame measures about 3.5 by 4 3/4, cuts out the center, and creates this gorgeous ornate frame. So it's a beautiful design that you can use to maybe frame a sentiment or an image. I will be doing a little bit of stamping and some ink blending for my design today. I'm also going to show you some tips when you are die cutting something as delicate as this. So the first thing I'm doing is I am going to die cut this out of layering weight white cardstock, but I want to create multiple so that I can layer up the frame and have a stacked die cut piece. So first I'm going to hold that down with some Best Ever Craft tape. I am using my Intri-Cut to do my die cutting today, and this is really helpful because it has these settings on the side so you can adjust the tightness. Now, the first thing I do is I have my setting kind of at die cut and 0. So I am starting out at just 0 for my basic die cut. I'll run this through the machine and then I'll take a look at how it die cut. And that's going to help me determine my future settings for this. So it's hard to see on camera, but on the back, there were some areas that did not die cut very well all the way. So what I did is I went ahead and adjusted my tightness. So I just tightened it a little bit off on the side, ran it through my machine, and then it die cut out beautifully. So you may want to experiment with some cardstock to figure out what the best setting is going to be for you and your die cut machine, or if you have the Intri-Cut. This is going to have a whole bunch of little pieces that need to come out, and a lot of times I will just drop this on a hard work surface. I happen to be working on a glass work surface, and then I use my pick and stick tool to help poke out any remaining pieces. Another thing you can do is flip your design. And what I mean by that is, so I have my cutting mat down, I have my cardstock, my die, and then the platform, and I'm going to flip it so that the blade edge of the die is facing up. So sometimes that is going to help as well. Another thing I want to mention as a tip is that when you're placing your die on your cutting mat is to kind of tilt it. Don't have it go straight on. It's going to be easier for the machine to take it if you tilt it a little bit. I want to have a mat that's going to go behind this frame, and I'm going to be using the Master Layouts 2 set. So the one with the stitched edge actually fits perfectly behind the frame. The other one has just a little bit of an overlap. So it's going to hang off the edges a little bit if you are looking at which one would be best for you. I am using the one that has that stitched edge. So again, I'm just going to die cut that out of some layering weight white cardstock. And off screen, I did die cut another one of these frames. So I am going to layer these together to have a stacked frame. I have some Connect glue inside of my glue press. I'm going to go around the outer edge, the inner edge, and then a couple spots in between the larger areas of that intricate design. I place something heavy on that, and while that's drying, I'm going to do my ink blending. And this is the panel that I die cut out with the Master Layouts 2, and this has that stitched edge. I'm using Blue Sky and Butterscotch. I'm going to do a landscape orientation. So I'm starting off with Blue Sky at the very top. I'm going to go about halfway down, and I'm kind of fading off as I get to the center. What I want to do with these two colors is I want them both on that card front or on that piece, but I don't want them to overlap and create green. So I wiped up my work surface to clean up any excess ink, and then I flipped it, and I'm coming in towards the other side with a butterscotch. Again, I'm going to blend up towards the center, but not overlap the blue. I'm just coming up so it barely grazes over the top. I really did not want to have green in the center there. So just by kind of going up towards each color, you'll avoid getting that overlap. To do my stamping, I'm placing my panel inside of my Misti tool, and I laid my frame over the top. Then I'm bringing in a silhouette image from the Celebrate You stamp set. It also has a coordinating die. I'm placing the image over the top of the frame because I kind of want to see what part is going to fit inside of the actual frame itself. Now, once I did that, I picked it up with the door of the Misti, removed the frame, and then I'm going to stamp this in black onyx ink. I want this to be a really bold stamped image. So I'm going to stamp it down once, take a look at it, then I'm going to stamp it again. And another thing you can do when stamping, especially with black ink, is you don't have to push super hard, but just let your stamp set sit there for a second or two and really let that ink transfer onto the cardstock. While I have my Misti tool out, I'm going to stamp a sentiment, and this is off of the Beautiful Things stamp set. Of course, you can use any stamp set that you would like to have for a sentiment. I just thought this was a beautiful one. It says, "To my beautiful friend." So I'm making this a friendship card. I stamped that in black Onyx ink as well, and then I'm going to die cut that out with the coordinating die. I die cut it out 2 more times from that white cardstock and layered them together with the liquid glue. And then for the assembly of the card, I'm going to add my liquid glue to the back of that frame. So once again, going around the outer edge, the inner edge, and then some of those larger areas in the center of the frame or around the edge of the frame. And I'm placing this over my ink blended panel. Again, I'll let that sit for a minute or two with something heavy on it. And then I'm going to take a tape runner, add that to the back, and place this on top of a top folding card front. So again, this is going to be my landscape orientation. It frames that design beautifully. And then for the sentiment, I'm adding some thin foam squares to the right-hand side of the sentiment. That is the part that's going to overlap my image. And then adding liquid glue to the other side that's going to overlap the frame. And that's going to finish off my inspiration using day 1 of the 12 Days of Christmas from Gina K Designs. So I hope this has given you some inspiration if you happen to have the 12 Days of Christmas, or maybe you have something similar to this in your collection. The 12 Days of Christmas is no longer available, but I will link down below in the video description any additional supplies that may still be available on the website. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Here is another video that I think you might enjoy.